Hi, I'm Margot, and today I want to give you a peek behind the scenes Cloudomation DevStack. I want to show you what the automation looks like that powers CDE deployment on Cloudomation DevStack, and I want to show you how you can customize this. So how you can customize what a CDE looks like, if it's a virtual machine, a container, a pod, which software is deployed to this CDE, how to customize the automation, and also how to customize the configuration options that are available to developers when they create their own CDEs. So let's take a look. I'm here on the Cloudomation DevStack self-service portal. So this is the web portal that developers will use to create and manage their CDEs. So right now I'm working from a developer's perspective. There is a separate video covering the developer's perspective on how to create, manage CDEs using this portal, but also the command line interface. I will not cover that today. Today I'm interested in the automation part of things, but take a look at the other video if you're interested. So to kick things off, I will create a CDE. Very creatively, I will call it Margot's CDE. I will select a CDE type, which determines which software is deployed to my CDE. I will also select a stop at timestamp. So this is really a fallback. So if I forget to stop or delete my CDE at the end of the day, it will be automatically stopped. So hibernated or scaled down to 0 at this timestamp. I will also select the user for which the CDE will be set up. So my SSH key will be injected into the CDE so that I can SSH into it, and a user will be created for me on the software that is being deployed on the CDE. So far, so good. This is the developer's perspective. What a developer would do now, they would wait for the minute or two that it takes for the CDE to be created, then connect to it and start working. Today, I want to take a look behind the scenes. So you can see here that the creating is actually a link. So this is a link to Cloudomation Engine. Cloudomation Engine is the general purpose Python-based object-oriented automation platform that powers the automation and configuration of CDEs in Cloudomation DevStack. So Cloudomation Engine and Cloudomation DevStack are part of the Cloudomation platform, and together they make up the Cloudomation DevStack product. So what I can see here, I can see the creation process. So create CDE Margot CDE is currently in progress. I can also take a closer look here at the individual steps that are currently happening. Light blue means this is waiting for something. Dark blue means it's doing something. Green is it succeeds. If something ends in error, it will be red. Let's see if we will see that. I'm quite sure we will, because there are some retries that expect steps to fail. Look at that. For example, here it tries to fetch the boot log from a freshly created virtual machine. It's not immediately available, so it's in a retry wrapper where it actually retries this until it succeeds. Anyway, so I can see here the individual automation steps that are being undertaken in order to create my CDE. In this case, so for our definition of CDE, this creates a resource group in Microsoft Azure. We host our CDEs in Microsoft Azure. It then creates a virtual machine, because again, for us, our definition of a CDE is that we deploy a full dedicated virtual machine for each developer as their work environment. It then gets the IP address, the host keys, the bootlog URIs, gets the bootlog, creates a certificate, signs the certificate, now sets up the CDE for my user, and we'll do some additional steps. So far, so good. So this is what is actually happening now. The interesting part for me is, well, as a developer, this is already very interesting to me, because if the creation actually fails, I can go here and see which step fails, what's actually happening. I can take a look at the logs, and I can either try to troubleshoot myself or make a specific request to my platform engineering or DevOps team saying, by the way, creating a VM in Azure failed. Maybe we've reached some limits or something. But from a DevOps perspective or platform engineer's perspective, what I'm interested in is, how this is actually defined. So where does it say which steps are done, in which order? How is this automation process actually defined? In order to do this, I will go to something called a custom object. So this is where we come to the object-oriented part of Cloudomation Engine. Cloudomation Engine features what I like to call object-oriented automation, which means that in the platform, you actually model your entities that are related to your automation. In this case, your CDEs. So you have a CDE. You have an object that is a CDE. This object has lifecycle hooks. This object has logs. This object has links to the associated automations that create, update, make changes to this object. So you really have this object as this one point, this one place that is both a mental category for you. So this is your CDE that's very tangible, but it's also functionally the place where automations are triggered, logs are stored, and all the information comes together about your CDE. So you can see here, I have the custom object Margot's CDE, and you can see that you actually have exactly the same form here as you have in the web portal, in the self-service portal. So you also have the title, you also have the CDE type, the stopper timestamp, the user, you have a status, you also have a more section, which is actually exactly the same as in the self-service portal. So if we actually take a look at this side by side, if we can manage on my small little screen here, then you will see that this is actually exactly the same data. So you have Margot CDE, you have the is running flag, you have the CDE type, the stop at timestamp, the user, the status, currently it's running, and here it says which CLI command I could use to actually connect to it with the terminal if I want to. And I have a more section. So this is exactly the same thing. I can also edit this here. So here I have the option to customize which configuration options are actually available to my developer. So if a developer creates a CDE, each organization might have different properties that they want the developer to be able to select. Maybe you want to be able to select which region to deploy your CDE to in order to minimize latency. Or maybe you want to be able for the developer to choose a machine type so that they can choose, now I need a powerful bigger one, or now I'm fine with a smaller one, depending on what I'm trying to do. Maybe you want the developer to be able to select which components should actually be deployed to the CDE and which components they should connect to in a shared development cluster. Any of these options or anything else that you might need or can think of can be added here to the form, and which is then exposed to the developer to select, and which can then be used as a parameter in the automation that actually creates the CDE. So let's add a form field. In order to do that, I go to the object template. So each object has a template associated with it. In the template, it says which attributes an object has. So let's take a look at the template. This is my CDE template. This CDE template now has exactly the attributes that I see here in the form. So it has the CDE type, it has the feature branch mapping here. It's alphabetic. The feature branch mapping is actually in the hidden section because it's not always used. It's an optional configuration parameter, and all the other properties or attributes that I can see here. And customizing this is as simple as adding or removing attributes from this template. So let's just add a new string attribute. I call it my attribute. I'm very creative today. And I say it's a string. I save. And if I now actually refresh here in the self-service portal, I can see my attribute, and it's a string. Amazing. Amazingly, you see that this is even working on a currently running CDE. So this is really highly flexible, very robust. You can even set a new attribute, change the automation on the go without interfering with existing CDEs, already running CDEs. I can also remove this again. I will do that. So I have deleted my attribute, and if I refresh here, it's gone again. So I'm back to my form that I had initially. So this is how you customize the configuration options that are available to developers in the self-service portal. And this is also how you start the object-oriented type of automation on the Cloudomation Engine platform. You start by modeling the entities that you want to automate. So for example, the CDE, if you're talking about CDE deployment, you would model your CDE, you would think about which attributes you need for a CDE, and create this as an object, which you can then display both here in the engine UI, in the self-service portal, and add lifecycle hooks on. So I will go back and show more here. So I'll continue here. So the interesting thing is this template. Now you can think of this template as like a Java class, right? It defines which attributes an object has, and then you have your objects, which are the instances of a class. or the instances of an object template on the Cloudomation Engine platform. So you have the template, and then you have a large number of objects, or potentially a large number of objects that are based on this template, that have the attributes that are defined in a template, and again, that have lifecycle hooks associated with them. So what are lifecycle hooks? Here we can see that we have three fields. Those are the lifecycle hooks. That's on create, on update, and on delete. So here I can actually add any automated process that I have defined on the Cloudomation platform as on create hook, or on update, or on delete. So very creatively also here, but also very clearly, I think, we have a CDE on create flow, a CDE on update flow, and a CDE on delete flow. The CDE on create flow gets all the inputs, so gets this object and its attributes. So my CDE with my stopper timestamp, with my user, with the selected CDE type as input, which can then be used in the automation to parameterize the automation and to define how to create the CDE. Same for the onUpdate flow. It always receives the entire object and all its attributes and attributed values, and also information about which values have changed. So this flow would then actually take the changed values, apply them, and make sure that the change is also applied to the CDE. So this is actually functional. So any change that is made on the object triggers an automated process that makes sure that this change is also applied to the CDE, so the real-world equivalent of the object. In this case, a virtual machine with some software on it. So let's take a look at these onCreate processes. So this is where we get to the heart of Cloudomation Engine. Cloudomation Engine is a code-based, Python-based general purpose automation platform. And at the heart of it are the flows. The flows are Python scripts that define automated processes. So in the flow, you define what happens when, how, why. And you do this using standard Python and the Cloudomation Engine Python API, so some Cloudomation specific Python functionality. In order to find out what this actually consists of, you also have IntelliSense available here. You can see some documentation, right, about which parameters are available, which data types, and so on and so forth. You also, interestingly, have visualization, a flow visualization, which visualizes the control flow of the script. This is generated automatically by the system, so this is not something you define, but rather you write your script in Python, and then you get a quick overview of what is actually being done in this script from the system, which is very handy, especially when you are trying to get a grip on what is happening in a flow that you didn't write yourself or you haven't looked at in a while. So this is the flow, and the flow is fully customizable. So this CDE type receives as input this custom object, the CDE. It gets all the values, so all the actual values of the attributes of the CDE, and you can use this to automate your CDE creation. And since you have Python, you can do pretty much anything here. You can create a virtual machine and deploy software on it, as we do. You can also deploy containers to Kubernetes cluster. You can also deploy some serverless infrastructure. You can also deploy a website or whatever you like, really. So the unit of the CDE, what a CDE is, what a CDE looks like, is fully customizable. Probably the simplest way to go about customization is if you take the CDE templates provided by us, you take a look at the Python scripts and you customize them and extend them to your own needs. But you can also start from scratch, of course, and define whatever you need. We also offer this as a service, so we can sit down with you and you explain to us what you need in your CDE, and we can write the Python scripts and model the objects for you. I think now we have the very basic concept. So in Cloudomation Engine, you have templates, object templates, which describe objects. You then have the objects themselves. They have attributes and attribute values and lifecycle hooks associated with them. So as soon as an object is created, if a CDE is created, this triggers an automated process. The automated process is defined in Python. And in the Python automated process, you can do whatever you like. There is a range of connectors, for example, available that allow you to connect to different systems and, for example, deploy infrastructure to Azure or Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud. Where is it? Google, here, Google Cloud. or to a Kubernetes cluster. You can also send emails, read some values from a database. You can also connect with SSH to your virtual machines or to your CDEs and deploy software, inject SSH keys, do whatever else you need. I will not do a full overview of Cloudomation Engine functionality. Again, there is separate videos covering that. So if you're interested, check out the other videos on YouTube around Cloudomation and Cloudomation Engine, where I go into deep dives about our Git integration, our role-based access control, our HashiCorp Vault integration, secrets management, versioning, anything that you can do with Cloudomation Engine. Now I want to go back and explain a little bit more about the custom objects and object templates, as they are the fundamental building blocks of CDE automation. So I will go back here to my Margos CDE, and then I will again take a look at the CDE template. So the template that defines what a CDE looks like. We already saw that we have the attributes. Also, we have a list of the currently existing instances of this object. So currently only my one CDE. But we also have a relationship canvas that actually shows me my data model. So this is actually a very simple data model, because CDEs, at least the way we understand them, are not that complicated. So here we really have only two classes or templates that refer to each other, which is the CDE and the CDE type. So like I said, our definition of a CDE is that the CDE is a virtual machine, and then some software is deployed to this virtual machine. So the CDE, in our case, contains all the information that relates to the virtual machine side of things. So like the user, like the name, like the started at timestamp. And then the CDE type actually is the one that determines which software is deployed to the CDE, to these virtual machines. So currently we have different CDE types available for the different versions of our software, but also for some other software. For example, we have a demo CDE type for Backstage to deploy a CDE that runs Backstage, so can do development on Backstage, just as an example. Backstage is an open source project, which you might be familiar with. It's very popular in platform engineering and DevOps circles. But the CDE type can be anything. So this would also be an option for you to very simply customize. You can take our CDE definition, our logic of how to deploy and create a virtual machine, and then just add a new CDE type, which determines how your software should be deployed to the CDE. But you can also model more complex things here. So if your deployment actually is a bit more complicated than just deploying something to a virtual machine, then of course you can also create slightly more complex data models. For example, I've created here a small, not even yet that complicated, but slightly more complicated data model that describes a bit more of a distributed deployment model. So in this case, we have a deployment which deploys an application. The application can consist of one or several components. Each component is deployed to a server, and each server has an operating system. So this would already be a slightly more involved data model that involves more different individual objects that make up your deployment, which is part of your CDE. And like I said, is fully customizable. So this is really the strength of Cloudomation Engine and Cloudomation DevStack. You have full control over the entire thing. So you have full control over which options are exposed and shown to your developers when they create their CDEs. You have full control over the automation that is executed when deploying a CDE or updating a CDE. All of this is done using standards. So actually, all you see here, so Cloudomation Engine is a code-based and configuration-based automation platform. So when you take a look again at Margos CDE, for example, what you have here is a form view and you have a code view. So this is actually all YAML. This is also how this can be exposed to the two different UIs, so the web interface, the self-service portal, and here the engine UI. Because it's YAML, it's a standard data format, and we implemented a front-end component that interprets this and shows it as a form. The form is, of course, a lot more discoverable. It has drop-downs, it has labels, it has descriptions, and it has nice controls like reset to default or a date picker. but the information that is actually shown is structured machine-readable data, as is everything on the Cloudomation Engine platform. So you have full control over what is actually shown to your developers, which options developers can choose from. You then have full control over the automation of how CD deployment actually works. And all of this you can do on your own or with our support. If you're interested to learn more about CDEs, there is a lot of content on our website, cloudomation.com. I write a lot of blog posts. I also wrote a very extensive white paper explaining how CDEs work, actually describing all the different CD products that are currently on the market, how they're different, how they can be compared, and also what makes CDs valuable and where they are not so valuable. So check it out. It's also available on our website in the white papers section. If you're interested to learn more or have specific questions, we're always happy to hear from you. Reach out to me on LinkedIn or via margot@cloudomation.com, and I'll be very happy to answer your questions.